Welcome to the Gut Mind Collective podcast, a show that helps busy women develop sustainable, nourishing health habits so you feel calmer and more energetic. I'm your host, Meryn Padgett, sharing guided meditations, gut mind health hacks, and interviews to inspire you to put yourself first and lead a purposely healthy life. I am so excited, and it gives me great pleasure to be joined by Kate Save of Be Fit Food today.
Thank you, Meryn.
You are so welcome. Kate is an accredited dietitian and exercise physiologist, and she's got a double degree in nutrition and dietetics and exercise science from Deakin University. And she's also got an advanced diploma in diabetes education and a master's in clinical exercise physiology. So Kate lectures at Deakin University, Chisholm TAFE, FIA Fitnation in subject areas of diabetes, weight loss, heart disease, bariatric surgery, nutrition, and food intolerances. And she's got more than a decade of experience working within the health and fitness industry. And she's committed to delivering really credible health and wellness advice based on the latest scientific evidence and best industry practice. She's such a passionate individual, wanting to empower individuals of all walks of life to make that real meaningful change in their own lives. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you. I've just realised I'm closer to 2 decades now, with my 40th coming up next year. But so this has been my life, I guess, and it's very much my passion and the space that I love to be in.
It's absolutely fantastic that you've made time to be here, and I can't wait to talk about food and mood because we're all about that at the Gut Mind Collective. So fantastic. Before we kick off, I'll just do a few little questions. We do like a little deep dive before we get into the deeper topic of food and mood. So when it comes to being in nature, would you prefer to be in the ocean, by the ocean, or in the forest?
By the ocean. I'm a beach girl, been brought up on the Mornington Peninsula and returned here to bring up my family. I love the ocean.
Yeah, awesome. It's so soothing, isn't it, being by the water? So what weird food combinations do you really enjoy?
Oh, I thought about this initially. I came up with the thing that I don't like, which is tuna and tomato together. If I put it in my mouth, I get a really metallic taste. And then I was thinking, what are the weird things that I like? And strangely enough, other than the tuna and tomato together, I eat everything. I like everything. And one of the things when I was younger that I used to, people used to think was quite funny, is I used to like orange juice on my cereal because I never really liked milk. And back then, no one had soy milk or almond milk or coconut milk or rice milk. So I was just looking for what can I pour on my cereal at a friend's house that's not regular milk. So I would do that. And the other thing was, ever since I was a kid, I always put my pasta bolognese on my salad because I like the hot and cold and the crunch and soft. And I think a lot of people probably do that now because of the low carb movement, but it's something that I've done as a kid that people used to think was weird that's becoming more acceptable, I guess.
I love it. And I used to do the orange juice thing too because, my grandparents had a dairy farm, and I think I was scarred for life with the milk straight from the vat and the cream. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So what would be your number one self-care ritual?
My favourite thing is actually just going out for a run or walk on the beach and then doing cold water immersion. So I love on the coldest days, even, it could be 2 or 3 degrees, and I will run out there into the water in my bathers and just have to get my head underwater. And that for me is really refreshing. It's a reset, a mental reset, physical reset. So that's what I do.
Is there scientific benefits to the cold water immersion as well?
There is so many benefits for it. It's, Wim Hof is the world leader in this stuff.
Heard of him. So.
And I only do it quite partially and not as long as anybody else. But we're all individuals, and that works for me. A quick couple of minute dip before I head home and do school drop-offs in the morning is enough for me.
Oh, I take my hat off to you. I can imagine it would really stimulate stimulate the system and get you going.
Yeah. And if it's
Well,
cold enough, it takes your breath away for a little while, and then you come up and you're like, okay, calm down, breathe again. Here we go.
yeah. Oh, that's great. So, your lifelong mission, I guess, has been within the health industry. So I'm really curious to know what inspired you to become an accredited dietitian and exercise physiologist.
For me, I've always had this love of food, but when I was quite young, so from the age of about 2 to 8, I used to suffer from really severe tummy aches. And my grandfather at the time would always take me to all the specialists and the doctors, and they could never work out what it was. And when he passed away, my parents just had to accept that they were never going to find out what was wrong with me, and I just had to live with it. So whenever I'd get sick, they'd send me to my grandma's house because it would take me at least 1 to 2 weeks to be able to come well again, to be able to eat, drink, walk, move, talk, because I would get violently ill.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 20, I ended up having MRIs, and I'd had scans my whole life, but I think the technology changed in that decade so much that they actually found that they thought I had a tumour. So in my gut, and they wanted to do emergency surgery. And I think I'd had this interest in food my whole life because every time I went to a specialist, they would say, what have you been eating? As if food was making me sick. And I knew food made me well, not sick. And I think I wanted to study nutrition to prove them all wrong. So as silly as it is to say it was relieving when I got diagnosed, it was, because I could go, you know what, there's actually something wrong with me and it's not what I'm eating. So, I had my surgery and all of that, and obviously survived. They said I wouldn't have got beyond the age of 30 if I didn't have the surgery. It turned out at the time what I had was benign, but it had grown and it was blocking things, and it was quite radical surgery. There was a 10% risk of death. And I think even that in itself really instilled in me that I've done the right thing, and I'm grateful that I did study nutrition because I know it makes people better, not worse.
Absolutely. That's a great life experience to be able to share with, there's a true empathy there, I can imagine. That would go with your patients. And
the patients always have all of these different complaints, and I listen because I know for that patient it is real. So whether or not people can find something wrong with them, it's real for that person, and somebody has to listen with empathy and provide help and guidance because they're sitting in your room looking for help. So I guess I love consulting from that point of view. And my movement from consulting into Be Fit Food was purely because after seeing around 10,000 patients with different health related issues, but a lot of them had some sort of weight or health concern or chronic health condition concern, I kept hearing from people, oh, if only you came home with me and cooked for me or shopped for me or cleared out my pantry, I'd be able to stick to all of this. And the more I heard it, the more I recognized that people were actually asking for help with something that we weren't providing. And they would constantly bring in all of these packets of different foods they were trying and this and that. And they'd go, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I felt like I was always negative, saying, oh, it's good, except. And it just got to the point where I'd been working with a bariatric surgeon for a long time, and I said to him, there's actually nothing out there that I would recommend that people should eat that's pre-prepared and convenient that will improve their health, because all of these things are for convenience and not for health improvement. So he turned around and said, all right, let's do it. Let's create a product that will change the health of Australia, that will actually improve people's health rather than just feed them for the sake of eating something.
It's a very good point there. You see so many buzzwords these days. There's that saturation about even vegan. Vegan is not necessarily healthy. A vegan Magnum compared to some beautiful coconut yogurt with some raspberries or strawberries, clearly no different. Yeah.
And back then it was a whole gluten-free movement where everyone thought gluten was evil. And then you'd stand in the gluten-free aisle and people would go, oh, I bought all of these gluten-free things last week. And I'm like, from the outside of the supermarket in the fruit and veggie section or the inside? No, the health food aisle, the gluten-free aisle. And I go, well, you could probably bin that because there's not much down there that's going to be any good for you. So that's where this whole food philosophy was so important to me, because no matter what restrictions you have on your diet or your health, the whole foods are, there's going to be something that you can eat that can improve your health.
Absolutely. Yeah. So can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that traditional role of dietitians compared to, say, like a health coach or nutritionist, etc.?
I guess being a lecturer in some of the universities and coming in and doing bits and pieces here or there, there's a very generic criteria for what needs to be ticked off in a course. And, you know, the first few years of purely studying the kind of science behind everything, I think is really important. But then the transition to the practical side of clinical placements and that sort of thing is very limited. If people are going into hospital work experience, then unfortunately they're only working with medications and supplements. They're not working with real food. So they're missing some of that experience in that university journey where we should be working with real food more. And even in food service, a lot of food service is done backwards in a sense of you've got X amount of dollars for a meal. What can you put into that meal? Whereas we built BeFit Food on this is what somebody needs to eat. Let's put that into the meal and then work out what it costs. So we built it from a nutrition first perspective. And I think that some of the dietetic industry has a bit of a tainted vision about what is important in dietetics because they've had limited exposure. But any dietitian that's been out there for 5 or 10 years working in private practice, I think would have a very grounded, good understanding of what they should be doing and what they should be talking about, purely because you have the human interaction with other people that genuinely have concerns that need resolving that shouldn't be with medication or supplements. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, your point of, are you different in what you do compared to the industry?
yes, so we actually own the trademark food as the first medicine. And that's because I believe there is a place for medicine, and you know, obviously that extends people's lives and it's essential at certain times in our lives. But if food isn't the first medicine, then those medications are never going to work anyway. And that is my approach, that we need to get the diet right first. And I'm also a sports dietitian. And when people come to me with all their supplements and they say, should I be taking this, what about this? I heard about whatever it is. It could be carnitine, it could be a B vitamin, it could be an amino acid or creatine or who knows. And I always say to them, hang on, like you can get 1% benefit from all of these supplements. The 99% is coming from your usual diet and food and your hydration. So let's just work on that first. Once you think that's perfect, then let's work on that 1%. So a lot of people work on the 1% because it's easy. They can buy it online when they're shopping late at night, or they can walk into a supplement store. It's a powder that they can keep in their desk or a snack bar in their car. And there is a place for those things, but not before Whole Foods.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, reboot is our philosophy. Reboot. We do tend to eliminate certain trigger foods, and that may not be your focus, but like sugar, obviously.
Yes, we're no added sugar as a policy across our entire company. And that makes our company very different to any other food company, because they will use all different types of sugars to sweeten foods. And it means for us that we can't even use hoisin sauce or sweet chili sauce or all of these standard ingredients that every other company on the market will use. We can't use them. Even some of the pasta sauces, because they have sugars and they're pre-made and they're processed, and we just don't put that in our food. So we
do
talk
you
about our
replace
food
with something like rice malt syrup or No, not
We
at
don't
all.
believe that you need that because the sweetness, rice malt syrup is still syrup from rice. So you've still got the
Yeah.
rice, extracted it, over processed it, and turn it
Yeah.
into a sugar. So for us, we don't use any of those things. We don't even use honey and natural sweeteners because we're
Yeah.
about a reset. So if we can reset someone's palate and give them a healthier palate, which is less sweet, less salty, then you
Mm.
can change their pleasure center in their mind from seeking pleasure from food, because we all know if we eat something sweet, you get a high sense of pleasure. And it doesn't matter whether it came from rice malt or it came from honey or it came from raw sugar or coconut sugar, we'll feel high from it. And if we keep doing that, then we're training our bodies to get high from food. But that same pleasure center can be stimulated by exercise, relationships, hobbies and activities that we enjoy, sunshine,
Yeah.
all those other things. So
Yep.
try
Yep.
and make food about your physiology and your health, and happiness about what you do in your life.
Mm. Absolutely. So yeah, we advocate for that too. And within your products, you are not strictly plant-based. It's more omnivore, but is there a focus on like Mediterranean lifestyle?
Yeah, so all of our meals we make sure have a minimum of 4 to 12 different vegetables, and we do that for the gut microbiome. So we've got a
Mhm.
fiber focus, but also the variety, because it's the things like the polyphenols and the resistant starch, the insoluble fiber, all of these things that are really important for gut health and therefore impacting brain health. And our focus is very much on the total body health rather than just one thing.
Yeah, and by linking in a good exercise routine and better physical activity, mindfulness
Yeah.
as well, that creates that link between the food and mood. Is
Yeah,
there anything
absolutely.
more that you expand upon in what you do with that food and mood link?
We know that if people actually get rapid results or quite fast results, it gives them positive reinforcement about the behavior that they're choosing, and it helps them long term to maintain that behavior. So, there's actually lots of studies to show that people who are able to change their behaviors quickly and get instant gratification, whether that be weight loss, blood sugar levels, blood pressure, cholesterol, fatty liver, whatever the improvement is, they're more likely in the long term to sustain those results. And there's even a study that shows with weight that they're 5 times more likely to keep more than 10% of their weight off 18 months after a rapid weight loss program than they are with a slow program, because of that gratification, that
Mm.
positive reinforcement. And other studies show that it just gives them more motivation, because all of a sudden in a week or 2 weeks time they can do up the top button of their belt or their jeans, or there's that, actually I feel better, because we all associate how clothing fit, I guess, not weight on
Mm.
the scales, but how clothing fit with how
Mm.
we feel. If things don't do up and we're uncomfortable all day, we think, oh, we're uncomfortable. And
Mm.
if you're not buying bigger
Absolutely.
clothes, then you're constantly going to feel uncomfortable. So you either, you've got to do something about it. And that reward of being able to do up the top button on your jeans, or just be more comfortable in your own skin, no matter what your body size is really important. And for us, that is just a sign of, if you fit comfortably in your clothes, whether they're a size 10 or a size 24, then you're not going up in weight. And that's really important, because the danger is in weight gain. And
Mm.
it only takes 5 to 10 kilos of weight loss to reverse almost all of the health problems. And, those small amounts of weight loss can even halve someone's risk of cardiovascular disease. So we're not about the final weight, we're about preventing weight gain and helping people get that first bit of weight off, feeling motivated, positive reinforcement for that long-term journey. So we see ourselves as the get it off company, because we know no other company out there really knows how to help people get it off in a whole food, sustainable, scientifically formulated, macronutrient balanced
Mm.
program. And if it was that easy, then as a dietitian, I just would have been writing food programs for people to do these dietitian designed VLCDs or very low calorie diets, but we know that if they need to put 4 to 12 different vegetables in every single thing they make 3 times a day, they're not going to be able to do it. So
Absolutely.
that's our point of difference. Yeah, is
Yeah,
helping
yeah.
people get started, teach them the portion control, and that reinforcement of those behaviors helps them keep going. And we're quite against people doing rapid weight loss without whole food, because then you're positively reinforcing a chocolate shake that someone had or a chocolate bar that they had on a supplement program. And that is stimulating the brain because it's sweet and saying sweet food, weight loss, positive reinforcement. It's the wrong message. And let alone, it's not good role modeling for families and children. You don't want that, someone in the family to be drinking their calories at dinner and not eating a whole food meal with the family. So our approach is really about teaching them how to eat better, but taking the pain away for a few weeks, giving them breakfast, lunch, dinner and snacks so they don't have to think about it. Because apparently we all think about food over 300 times a day. We think about, am I hungry? Am I full? What will I eat next? What's for dinner? Do I have food at home? I better go to the shops. And if we can take away those 300 thoughts a day, they're going to be a lot more successful. And at the end of that 2 weeks, they've had the positive reinforcement of eating those 4 to 12 veggies with their lean protein in their small meal every day. They're feeling satisfied and they can keep going with those behaviors. So we see all the other companies having their place in the market for, 40 weeks of the year for that keep it off phase and all the gyms and all the exercise. But we're the company that's just focusing on helping people get that initial change that stimulates the behavior that the other companies can support in the long-term maintenance and other health professionals and even supplements at that point or whatever it might be has to come after they've had that reset. And we have a 2-week metabolism reset for that reason, that we know it's enough time for people to change their behaviors.
Yeah. And so you're working with bariatric clients, particularly with the rapid...
Less than 1%. Less than 1%. So it's probably less than 0.5%. So 99.5% of the people we work with are everyday people. And when we've surveyed them, 70% of people say they've come to us for health improvement or health change. They don't say they're there for weight loss. Our second question we ask them is, how much weight do you want to lose? 0 to 5 kilos, 5 to 10, 10 to 20 or 20 plus. 70% of people have come just for 5 to 20 kilos weight loss. So we're not working just with people that are really overweight. We're working with people that want to lose 5 kilos.
Yep. And getting that change for them. It's it's fantastic to know that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And take the stress away and the worry of nothing works, I can't do it anymore. We just want to take that pain away because we know everyone can do it. They just need help. And we offer free dietitian support for that reason, that if they're unsure or they don't think they'll be able to do it, speak to our dietitians for free. I mean, I have a dietitian company that charges for that, but we don't charge at Be Fit Food because we know that first hurdle to just get started, we can make that pain go away by giving them.
And is the free support online through a specific group or like a dedicated portal on the Be Fit Food website or?
Yes, so we've got free dietitian consults. They can literally book in and speak to a dietitian for no charge. We've also got a Be Fit Foodies group. So it's called Be Fit Foodies. It's a private group with over 6,000 very loyal customers in there who live and breathe Be Fit Food, which is amazing. So we don't have to interact in there, because if you were to ask a question, I guarantee within 5 minutes, 20 people will answer it for you. And they know our brand as well as we know our brand, because they live and breathe our values of just whole food, good portions and good balance.
Yep. Awesome. So if you had a magic wand, what is one thing that you would like to see change in the world of not necessarily bariatrics, but maybe even just like the perception of food and diets and nutrition?
Realistically, my thoughts are that that trademark. We have food as the first medicine, and it needs to be whole foods first. And I believe you really can't overeat whole foods, because you get full from eating those foods, and that actually stops you from wanting other things. And my husband even made a comment at dinner the other night. I cooked up this huge big, if you know the George Foreman steamers, it's got all the different layers of veggies, and I just had heaps of veggies left over, so I put them all in there, and there's like 7 or 8 different vegetables on this big stacker, and he's eaten all of this with his little portion of meat, and he's like, I am so full. Vegetables are so filling. And I was like, they are. And this is why my company is built on whole foods and having this variety of foods, because we're meeting the physiological needs of the body with the nutrition value of the food, but also the psychological needs of because you can have the volumes in these low starch, low carb vegetables, and you can pretty much eat them unlimited. And the more you eat, the healthier you get, because you're feeding your gut microbiome too.
Absolutely. And
And
there's no
then
cholesterol in plants.
that's
Is
right.
there?
And no, you can have all your lean proteins on the side, but what you find is all of a sudden you don't need this 500-gram steak. You can have your 150, 200-gram, I fill it, or even less, because you're satisfied with the other foods if you eat enough volume of them.
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Kate. So I ask all guests if they could share like one quote or mantra or affirmation that they use in times, of maybe challenge in business or life to get them through.
Oh, I've got a few. One of my favorites is a Walt Disney one. If you can dream it, you can do it. And I apply that to all aspects of my life and my kids' upbringing as well. My girls have got cross country tomorrow, and they're little. They've never really run. The little one's in, she's 6. She's never done cross country before, and she's scared. Mom, I need to run a kilometre. She's like, can I do it? And I was like, just believe you can. You can. Like, there's no reason why your body can't do this. It's, if you believe you can do it, you can do it. So I think that's really important. And other than that, I think my one about food is someone Wigmore. I can't think of the first name. Maybe Jill Wigmore. And it's this is my interpretation of it. I may not get it word for word right, but food can be our best form of medicine or our worst form of poison. Something on the lines of that if we get it wrong, we can actually poison ourselves with food to death. And that's where these chronic health conditions are coming from. Or it can be our best source of medicine. We can eat ourselves back to better health. And we have that saying in our business, eat yourself better, because no matter what your health condition is, the more good stuff you eat, you're going to make that condition better to some extent. But it can be the slowest form of poison. That's exactly what she says, actually, because the wrong thing every day will poison the body until things go wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, inflammation being a root cause of most disease. So, and it all happens in the gut, doesn't it? So
It does, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, Kate. Thank you so much for your time. Would you like to share with the listeners where they could find out more about you? And I'll put the links in the show notes.
Sure. befitfood.com.au is our website, or we also have our Instagram at BeFitFood Australia, our Facebook page, BeFitFood, or our BeFit Foodies private group. And feel free to join the group. It's really interesting conversation. If you've got questions and you want to ask somebody who isn't someone working for us about the product and how it works, then that's a really good forum to join, because they give you open, honest feedback.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Miriam. And I look forward to talking to you again one day.
Absolutely. We trust that you enjoyed this episode of the Gut Mind Collective podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe, and you can learn more about us over at thegutmindcollective.com. Goodbye for now.